Hey everyone, before we get going with Mr. The Smoke, just want to put in yet another promotional plug for this upcoming Rolex 24 at Daytona, taking place Thursday, January 25th through Sunday, January 28th. Of course, the big race is Saturday and Sunday, the 27th and 28th, because it's 24 hours long. If you are new to sports car racing in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, this year's Rolex 24 is absolutely the year to go. It's always been sort of a true all-star race with guys coming from IndyCar and NASCAR and F1, as well as, of course, all the top dogs native to sports car racing. But this year's got a special amount of buzz. We got some brand new prototypes from teams like Penske and Acura, drivers like Fernando Alonso and Helio Castroneves and Juan Montoya, plus all the usual stars, including a ton of Dinner with Racers alumni that are coming out. Drivers like Catherine Legg or Patrick Long or Joey Hand, and a lot of behind-the-scenes guys like Dan Binks, Mike Hull, Bill Riley, a whole star-studded cast coming out. Definitely not one to miss, and it's Daytona, which means it's extremely fan-friendly, extremely accessible. If you go to DaytonaInternationalSpeedway.com, they've got several ticket packages you can take a look at. I always recommend, because this race is so long and it gives you so many opportunities to kind of explore, it's well worth getting all the access you can buy. I promise you won't be disappointed. You'll get to see vantage points you've never been able to see before, and there's nothing cooler than sort of walking through the garages at 3 a.m. and seeing who's repairing what, or just sort of casually bumping into gosh only knows. So anyway, come on, check it out. Ryan will be there. I will be there. Everybody's friendly. Everybody's approachable. Everybody is thrilled to have you there. So come on out. The Rolex 24 at Daytona, taking place the 27th and 28th of this coming January at Daytona International Speedway. Plenty of things going on in Daytona Beach for the significant other who maybe doesn't care about racing but wants to check out some nice restaurants, nice hotels. It's well worth it, I promise. Please go. Thank you. On with the show. So, Mr. The Smoke.
Yes.
Or can we call you Tony?
You can call me whatever you like.
Fair enough. Fourth place finisher at the 2004 Rolex 24 at Daytona.
Oh, man.
What? It's a highlight.
Okay.
Yeah, one spot off the podium, but hey, who's counting, right?
Yeah.
If you could describe this dinner we just had in one word, what would it be?
Hangry. You guys had dinner. I sat here and had to talk through the whole thing.
Mr. The Smoke, we offered.
I know you offered.
Okay.
I know. Well, I didn't realize that this was going to be like a 4-hour interview either, but one of you was asking a question and the other one would be eating. So
Yeah, you figured out our
and only one guy can do the answer here, and that's me. So luckily I've been able to pound down some liquid pork chops.
Yeah, those Busch Lights look delicious.
Yes, they are.
Sponsor plug.
And now for Dinner with Racers, presented by
Continental Tire.
with your hosts, Ryan Eversley and Sean Heckman.
Placeholder radio sound. I'm a driver. I'm very angry. This is the sound of a driver on the radio during a race.
What do you think I should order?
Welcome to Dinner with Racers. I'm your host, Ryan Eversley, alongside your co-host,
Sean the Heckman.
Okay.
Nope, just Sean Heckman.
Okay, that's better.
Yeah.
Now, we're very lucky this season to have some amazing guests. But before we get into that, let me tell you all the crazy things we did to get there.
So we are currently driving on day number 34 of our trip from Charlotte, North Carolina to Atlanta, Georgia, where we both will then jump on flights and be done with this 13,000-mile journey that took us across 25 states to bring you 29 free dinners.
You know, nothing says relaxing at the end of a long trip like flying off to another one. But I'm happy to work with Continental Tire on their social media.
So, if we haven't mentioned it before, this is the season of Holy Crap!
Holy crap!
Wow!
Holy crap!
How did this happen? And we say this because, holy crap, we got Tony Stewart.
Tony beep, beep, Stewart.
The Mr. The Smoke.
Mr. The Smoke was the coolest guy, gave us a lot of time, was very open. Couldn't be more thankful to Sherry Herman for setting this up for us.
Absolutely. Now, if you don't know Mr. The Smoke's story, started his career on the local dirt track scene, became a huge star of what's known as USAC ranks, moved on to IndyCars, won that championship, moved on to the NASCAR Cup Series, won 3 championships there, 2 Brickyard 400s, and is largely considered one of the greatest racing drivers of any era.
It's really cool to get to sit down with Tony and talk to him about his past and also kind of gauge him just as the guy he is away from the racetrack. He told a really cool story about how he kind of got his first big break, and it's not the direction that normal opportunities come from.
1 year into retirement, we learn about literally making bucks. We learn about the journalists he does and doesn't like. All the stuff you'd want to hear about Indy, about NASCAR, etc.
Cool story about unofficially setting the fastest lap ever at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
We learn about biting a monkey.
And exiling a pig.
So on National Boston Cream Pie Day, we headed out to the Port City Club in North Carolina. And what did you get?
I had a delicious meal that I completely remember the name of.
And Tony had, I think, water and a lot of beer. I had a chicken sandwich. And a quick little teaser note, he gave us so much time, you're actually not going to hear all of it. We're actually going to break this up into 2 episodes. But in the meantime, shout out to Dario Franchitti for driving this whole way.
This is almost over, right?
You just drive, okay? Getting sick of your attitude.
Shout out to the folks at Acura for this lovely MDX. And, of course, the people who made this entire thing possible.
Continental Tire.
Cross Contact LX Sports. Tony Stewart.
All right, we're gonna start in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hey, man.
How you doing?
They tried.
We tried. Yeah. So,
How you doing? I'm Ryan. Nice to meet you.
hey, Sean. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Sean.
Oh, sorry.
Nice to meet you,
Yeah,
man.
hi, I'm Ryan. Nice to meet you. Cheers. Yeah, do your thing. Yeah.
Is that your Ford? Yeah, we had a theory that you were just sitting there if you were on the phone. We figured you were just like either rolling calls or just doing everything you could to stall to sit with us. Either one we would have accepted.
No, I was
so.
waiting on the rain to stop. I was just waiting on the rain to stop. So
That's fair. All right, we're going to jump right into this with the very, very hard, super hard-hitting questions. How do we get you to Le Mans?
that's a great question.
How do we do it?
That's what I want to know too.
All right, fair
I'm
enough.
ready.
Are you FIA ranked yet?
God, I don't know.
Probably
I guess
not.
Probably. Well,
Yeah.
not. You're
I've
not
had
on the
my
list.
FIA license,
Yeah.
so I don't know. I don't know if you have to renew it each year or not, but
You
Yeah,
know more
but
than I do.
you don't need it. They'll give you one when you're ready.
yeah.
They'll do a background check on you though. Like,
Oh, boy.
is he up to
Well,
it? Is he
I
up
could
to it?
slow it down
Yeah,
just
like,
a little
wait,
bit.
Wait. Yeah. So how often are you in Charlotte?
I have hardly been to Charlotte this summer. I've probably been 2 weeks, and other than that, it's just been hit or miss, a day or two at a time.
Yeah.
I'm raising whitetail deer on my property
Right.
at home, and since we started that at the beginning of last year, everything else on my properties went
Okay.
because I got one 25-year-old kid 27-year-old kid that works for me.
All right.
Used to be 3 people, now they're down to 1.
Yeah.
The other 2 were flakes, a couple, and they moved back to Alabama, that's where they belong. So, but I mean, just so overwhelmed doing this deer thing. I mean,
How many do you have?
110 right now.
Oh,
We had
Jesus
50
Christ.
babies this year. We had 63 doe. We had 63 doe and 3 bucks,
Yeah.
and we've lost 3 doe. Still have the 3 bucks. Then we had 50 babies, and we lost about 3 of the babies. Now I've got 3 more breeder bucks too. So I got 6 breeder bucks.
Yeah.
So are
And
we doing this yet or no?
Yeah, no, we're doing it. Yeah.
All right. So I can't really say. So his job is just to make more babies. But no, it's been really interesting to watch. It was cool because twice a day we would literally walk through these pens, and 3 of us would go 3 wide in these pens and go through the whole thing from front to back.
Yeah.
And look for babies, because if you can get them in the first day and a half, they absolutely, maybe even 2 days, they will not move.
Uh-huh.
They'll just, if they're, I mean, you literally just walk right up to them, pick them up, like a cat.
Yeah.
Wow.
They will not move because the mother teaches them just to lay still, lay in that spot that she's put it in, and stay there and don't move. So when anything comes, it just sits there and just
Right.
So
doesn't move.
I got to take these steps. Like, what is the exercise in raising deer? I
The
don't
end
really
game,
understand.
maybe,
Is this just to then release, or is it just to have more deer
well,
in the backyard?
I'm technically a hunting preserve now
Okay.
in Indiana. So
Okay.
eventually we're going to sell hunts on my property, but it didn't start that way.
Yeah.
The state changed their laws, and we knew it was coming up.
Yeah.
And
This is out in Indiana.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
Indiana. So we couldn't be high fenced. So we've already had problems with a guy that the DNR actually caught. They have our gate codes, so they come in and cruise
Can
around the
inspect
property
it and
whenever
all
they
that,
want,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is great
Right.
because we had another guy in town that was raising deer and this and that was creating a big problem, and I don't know what his beef was with us, but
Sure.
creating problems. So DNR, we just gave them the gate code, said come in anytime, showed them how to get around the
I
property.
think we're both too scared to ask what's DNR.
The Department of Natural Resources.
Copy. Okay.
Sorry. So they have their codes and
Yeah.
come in whenever they want, which is great. But they caught a guy that had backed this four-wheeler up to our fence. Our fence was only 6 feet tall at the time.
Okay.
So backed this four-wheeler up. The guy jumped over the fence and then went hunting in there. And if he got something, then he was going to drag it under the fence,
Oh, right.
which screws the fence up.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
At
yeah.
the same
There's no
time,
reason. Yeah.
hunting on private property.
Well, let's say what happens if this kid breaks his ankle walking through your field.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
So that's the other problem.
Yeah.
Even if it's, you could have a million signs around there that says no trespassing.
Yeah.
And if they get over your fence and break their leg, you're liable for it.
Right. Yeah.
So we wanted to be able to high fence it. So that was the big reason that we did what we did. But to high fence it, then everything changes. Now you don't report to DNR, you report to the Indiana Board of Animal Health.
Oh, okay.
Cool group of people, by the way. So, but then you're self-contained. So nothing comes in, nothing goes out.
Right.
So before deer went in, deer went out, and all this and that. But now we have to be high fenced, which is 8 feet or 8 feet minimum or above.
Okay.
So we're 10-foot fence all the way around the majority of the property, and then what's on the road is 8-foot steel decorative fence. So it's been a project doing that part of it. But the whole concept of it was just, hey, we can bring some cool we could buy a couple bucks here and let them breed in here.
Yeah.
And then it went from that to we got going. I was like, well, shoot, then we can get some nice doe too and breed those. To man, we're spending a lot of money on this thing. We got to figure out how to make some of this money back.
Right.
So now we're going to be in a position where we're going to be selling deer as well.
Okay.
And then it was my idea actually to do the hunting side of it. And it's more set up for corporate type clientele.
Okay.
But I have a 6-bedroom house, and so my bedroom is already got keypad locks on it, touch pad locks on it, because we knew we would be entertaining a lot of people, and I just didn't want people going through my bedroom. So
that's understandable.
Somehow that makes sense.
so we got 5 bedrooms that we can put 5 hunters in.
Nice.
And so if the CEO of Coca-Cola wants to bring his grandson and 2 or 3 other people, he can have my house. And literally, most of the time when you go to a nice place, you're in a really nice bunkhouse that's away from the main house.
Okay.
This is actually
the actual
in my
house.
house.
Right.
And everything that I've got in there, pinball machines, bowling lanes, ping pong table,
How
pool
big is the
table,
property?
shuffleboard, video games, everything.
Yeah.
It's 414 acres, which in hunting preserve standards is not a huge piece of land.
Right.
I think I got a lot of friends in Texas, and they're 10,000 plus
Yeah,
acres, which is very
Helicopters and stuff.
humiliating and humbling at the same time. But to have 400 acres where we have 400 acres is actually a big piece of land. So I'm happy with what I've got. And if you find 400 acres around there, most of it's farmland. So this is none of it's farmland.
And not being a hunter, is that kind of like a fish in a barrel kind of thing for newbie hunters? I don't really know.
No, it's really not.
Yeah.
I mean, we get people that complain about it. There's people that don't like that aspect of it. But the majority of our hunters are going to be bow hunters too, and that adds a whole nother element of difficulty to it, and you're in a lot closer range to get a deer in. So it's the state of Indiana, they adopted rifles, so that's something new that they had last year, which you could reach halfway across the property if it weren't for the hills. So I mean, we have a lot of hills, so you're not going to have there's no longer shot that you would take than probably 200 yards at my property.
So you're not just opening the window and sniping?
No,
not
at all.
Okay,
Not at
fair
all.
enough.
Now I might reach out the window and feed them.
Sure.
We actually have one that one of the does we named Peanut, and we bought 12 doe from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the guy goes, "Yeah, just get you a 5-gallon bucket and put peanuts in there and shake it and yell peanuts, and they'll come running." Well, they don't come running like he said they would, but there's one that's she's really, really friendly. She comes up. I literally will reach through the fence and scratch both sides of her neck like a dog.
Oh, wow.
I think
she's that friendly.
Yeah,
that's one
on-
you've had on
online.
Periscope.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So she'll never leave the breeder pen area. I mean,
Okay.
we got 2 big holding pens, and she's basically going to be a pet at the end of the
Right.
day.
House deer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And that's what she's like.
Like
She's
on
like
the
the house
couch.
mom.
Yeah.
She's like the house mom at a frat deal. She kind of takes care of all the deer in that pen, and
It's kind of the
we
matriarch.
caught her nursing other deer, other fawns that weren't hers. So I mean, she is kind of like the den mom on the property. But it's kind of cool. It's neat to take people around there. I'm going to have a lot harder time hunting now because I'm a big animal person anyway. But I try to not get too used to being around the fawns. But the doe and the breeder bucks, they're pretty cool. And the bucks don't come around. They'll let you. I've got one that'll let you get about 50 feet away from him, and as long as there's the fence in between there, and he'll let you look at him and take pictures of him. But other than that, he's He doesn't really care. The other two, one of them, as soon as he sees you, he runs through into the trees and hides. And I got another one that he'll get about 80 to 100 feet away, and he'll stand there and let you take pictures, but he won't.
Right.
He's like, all right, you got 30 seconds, and I'm out of here. That's about how long he lasts, and he's gone.
That's how we feel right now. So. but even in retirement, you're still making the big bucks.
Okay,
No.
all right. No, you said.
wish.
See, that
a
was a
pun.
bad joke.
Yeah.
I wish.
It was a
Oh,
bad
yeah,
joke.
I got you,
Sorry.
I got you.
Yeah, sorry.
No, because trust me, I wish I was making big bucks right now.
You're cut off.
I'm out.
Listen, we got to make sure our beers stay above half glass here.
Yeah, here you
'Cause
go.
we just raise our hand and we'll flag somebody over if
Yeah.
they get low here. But no, it's been a different year for me for sure. I mean, we like we said, we had the deer program going on, and everything else kind of went by the wayside. So this year I started really working on I got a 8.5 acre lake, so I've been working on the lake and the fish, and we're gonna sell fishing days and this and that too.
So you're basically trying to get that Bass Pro Shop for life partnership.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
The
I saw
inside
pictures of the
my
house.
Yeah, the inside of my house was done by Bass Pro Shop.
I was like, I'm pretty sure he's really taking it to a new level.
Yeah.
Because you even have like the aquarium.
Yeah, I got a
with, like,
5,600 gallon freshwater aquarium, and then I've got a 1,500 gallon stream. And so when
Indoor.
you come in the front door, you have to go over the bridge over the stream to get into the great room where the tank is. But
Okay.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
if you cannot relax up in that main room, you got to go see a doctor.
Right.
Because it's the most peaceful room. It's got 2 waterfalls, so you just got waterfalls running down and watching the fish. I mean, I like it. I enjoy that part of it. We've got a largemouth that's over 12 pounds in that tank.
Wow.
Jeez.
That is a showstopper. So
Right.
and we're switching from trout that were in the stream to now koi fish.
Okay.
So I've been buying koi on this auction site where you can bid on these koi. So that's been kind of fun to get that redone and redo that side of it. But it is at Bass Pro people were the ones that actually did both of the
It looks
tank
like
and
it,
the
yeah. I
stream
was
and
like,
all the stuff around it.
Anything about what we do or what this is? That's totally fine.
No,
Yeah,
that's why I was
yeah.
like, well, we got till 6 o'clock.
Sean's a PR guy in racing, and I'm a race car driver. Like, we're not media. We know you love the media. We're not those guys.
I actually don't even mind. I actually hang out with the media a lot more now than I used to because it's a totally different field this year.
Yeah.
Not being in a race car.
Well,
Well,
they're
not being in a cup car.
They're not making the same story every week out of you.
Well,
you
and
know?
they're not looking at you
For
to
the
try to
headline.
make a story.
Yeah.
When nothing else is going on that
Right,
week. So
right.
I get to slide in, and it's like, hey, how are you? But there's a bunch of them. I mean, contrary to popular belief, I actually am and
Especially
and
now,
was even before. I mean,
Yeah.
my whole career I've been friends with a lot of those media members.
Right.
But there's the 3 or 4 that I just absolutely. Viv Bernstein. If that girl was on fire on the side of the road, I would not pee on her to put the fire out. I just wouldn't do it. Just have no respect for her.
And it's because she goes for like the low-hanging fruit story, or
Well, that she doesn't show up every week, and it's just and when she does show up, it's normally she writes. I think it was for New York Times or somebody.
Yeah.
One of the New York papers, and so when she came, it was like, oh, thinks she's the big dog around there, but she always had to stir the pot.
Yeah.
And when you're not there every week, I mean, and you get sent down for a weekend, you got to try to get something that's big.
Right. Is that, I mean, beyond the sort of stories, right? Is there kind of an earn it mentality with you in the sense that, like, if you're there every week, you're earning your place? You know what I mean? Versus like somebody who flies in once every half dozen.
So I had two kinds of people that I didn't like.
Yeah.
I didn't like the Vivs that were there and that were trying to create
They're there for the
some
big events
drama.
and that's it. Yeah.
And then I didn't like the people that showed up and asked the really stupid questions.
Sure.
If you asked a stupid question, it was like a Ginsu knife infomercial. For 30 seconds, I would just carve them up.
Right.
Because it's like, if you're going to do this and you're going to take my time, ask me something that makes sense.
Yeah.
Ask me something that means something. Don't just ask some generic, stupid softball question.
Yeah.
Like softball questions I could answer even. But sometimes they would ask just really stupid questions.
Yeah.
And it's people that are new to journalism. It's the first time they've got a big job, blah, blah, blah. But I was never easy on those kind of people.
That's what, like, one of my favorite clips of you on YouTube is it's like week 8 of the chase at Richmond. Or was it Richmond?
No,
it was.
surely you got to be thinking of Talladega. Surely, the
I'm
one
not
where I said at the halfway point, if we haven't wrecked enough cars, we're going to send half of the remaining field backwards. And
That wasn't it, but I like it.
that was one of the most iconic clips of my highlight reel.
It was also might as well just make it a figure 8.
Yeah.
I was like, this is awesome. Yeah, fired up. Yeah.
Every time Talladega comes up,
They know who to go to.
that clip comes and starts running again on Facebook and stuff like that, YouTube and all that. It's going again.
Yeah.
But I think it was like week 8 of the playoffs, and every week they're asking you the same, like, how's the pressure this week? and it's you and Edwards.
You're right.
Like,
it was Richmond.
Yeah, and it's like it's the same answer I had from last week. What do you want?
Yeah.
And it's a different week. It's like the week starts over.
Right. Exactly.
It doesn't change. You still got to go do the same job.
Right.
But after 7 straight weeks of saying that,
They
now
still
you're
go
on
the same
week
way.
8
Yeah.
and you're just over it.
Right. But what I liked is like we're big Marty Smith fans because he gave us time last year, and he follows it up with a question about like at the time from getting a new competition director for the team, and you're like that's a good question. That took thought, and I was like I love how you made an example of that.
Marty's one I always got along with.
Yeah.
Jenna Fryer, we've had a love-hate relationship. We're like a brother. Most of the time, we're like a brother-sister relationship. We talk all the time. But we've had a couple periods in the 20 years that I was in the sport where I put her in the Viv category. I wouldn't even talk to her.
Yeah.
Wouldn't give her an answer. If she asked a question, I'd just go next question. I wouldn't even answer it. But a lot of those people in the media and photographers, same thing. I dislike photographers more than I dislike the people in the media center.
Okay.
Because they're like cats. If you think about it, they're always creeping around, trying to get a natural shot where you don't see him coming, which it's like a cat creeping around. It's like, God, I hate it. But at the same time, again, there's probably a dozen of them in the garage area that I'm great friends with.
Yeah.
Some of them come to my property and hunt currently.
Yeah.
Come over during the off season and come hunt for a couple of days. So everybody always thought I hated the media. I didn't hate the media. I just hated the handful of bad apples like there is in everything.
Yeah,
So
right. Speaking of media, we met with Robin Miller about.
That's a guy I like.
Yeah, we've
that's
heard.
where I'm coming with it, and he it ties to your lovely girlfriend.
Everything ties to my lovely girlfriend most of the time these days.
She's the boss. Is that where we're going?
Not really.
Okay.
She just ends up being a common denominator in a lot of
Sure,
things
fair
because she's great for me because she's a good diversion from me.
Okay.
People don't care about me. They see her and they want to go talk to her versus me.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, that's great. I love this.
So Robin Miller, who you referred to as the AJ Foyt of PR and media, which we thought was awesome because we know Robin just from Robin, but then we met him and did this, and we're like, yeah, that guy's awesome. Like, what a character, and believes, like, because you see that guy and you think, oh man, this guy's just spouting off to spout off, but he believes everything that he talks about. Believes it.
And the thing that, and 90 to 95% of the stuff that he's bitching about is spot on.
Right.
He's absolutely spot on with it.
Yeah.
Occasionally he'll get off his rocker and get on a tangent.
Sure.
But still, he believes it, and he believes in it, and he's going to fight for it. I mean, and even times that I disagreed with him, I'm like, hey, I've always respected him because here's a guy that's willing to stand on the ledge and take the shots when nobody else will, and stand up and speak his mind and stand up for what he thinks is right. So Rob and I've always got on good.
Yeah. Well, he claims that you didn't have quality control when it came to, we'll call it ladies, but he used a different term. And then we meet Penelope, and she's lovely. So
yeah, well, the blind squirrel will find a nut once in a while. So.
Speaking of Penelope, so Ryan in the sports car paddock is actually one of the more approachable drivers. So it's very common for Ryan to sort of be in a conversation. Yeah. And my job, being somebody that no one knows, is to be sort of the guy who's like, hey, you got that driver's meeting you got to get to and have the code to get out of the thing.
Yeah.
Photographer's meeting.
Yeah.
What's her code to get you out of a conversation you don't want to be in?
We got a meet and greet because normally it's on Sundays. Normally I'm on Sundays is when I go. Well, I don't have drivers meetings to go to anymore, so it's a meet and greet now.
Okay, you got the meet and greet. You got to go to. So when
it's a meet and greet or a meeting.
So when she shows up in 40 minutes, like you got that meet and greet.
Oh no, she said she goes. They got you scheduled for 3 hours. She goes, I'm going to get over here, and if I get hungry, I'm going to go ahead and eat. I'm like, I don't think it's going to be 3 hours, but if you get hungry, by all means, get something to eat.
Do.
She goes, I'm definitely drinking though.
So are we.
Go ahead. We'll be fine. We can Uber home from here. It's not that far. So
do you have like an actual house here, or do you guys just have like a townhouse or something?
Yeah, believe it or not, I have from where we're at. If you go straight south of here on the main road here, I've got a condo that was my first piece of property I bought in North Carolina when I got my first deal in '96 with Harry Rainier.
Okay.
Wow. So I still have my condo, and but I bought Robbie Reiser's old shop on the backside of Lake Norman in Denver, and own the whole building, and I have an RC car shop.
Okay.
We make 10 scale electric and gas RC cars. Right. They're competition. They're not go run them in the grass and then your driveway. I mean, it's
either for a thing.
They build them. They take them to the racetrack for the weekend and go race. So that's where our shop for that is. And so the guy that takes care of that actually lives in my condo. But I'm off exit 23 down here. So I haven't been down there much. But I mean, it used to be I spent probably 95% of my time, 90 to 95% of my time in Charlotte.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
And this year it's been almost a reversal of that, which is great.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah. Do you find yourself in retirement just looking for things to do? Not in the sense of I'm sure you got plenty of activity, but like, it sounds like you're almost obsessive about raising deer in the sense that you're always looking for something that's new and maybe competitive.
There's just always here's the thing. I am the king of everybody I'm the king of bad ideas.
Have you met anybody?
Man, I got
Yeah.
great. I got and a lot of times when I call our management group, I've got 2 brothers that work for me. They're absolute geniuses, and another guy that's been with me for this is now 17 years, and we all make the decision together.
Okay.
So if it's the 3 of us, the one brother, he's on a side he does the side projects, but the one brother, the manager, and I, the 3 of us, we all agree or we don't do it. If 2 people like it and one don't, doesn't matter who it is.
Right.
It doesn't get done. So we have to agree. But I always call him and say, hey, I got another really good bad idea for you today. so he knows he knows when he gets that quote that to sit down and start writing notes down because it's probably going to be something really stupid. So
if they hit you with a road trip based podcast, shut that shit down. Shut that shit down right now.
It seems like you've got that typical. I say typical because most of the drivers I run around with have the same thing where it's like something becomes interesting and then it's like I got to do that full fledged. What's going to be the next thing that
Man, I don't know. It's kind of like the tattoo I got on my back. It's going to have to go long enough for me to forget how bad it hurt while I was getting done before I get my next one.
Right.
So that's what it'll be like for the next bad idea that I come up with. But
what's the tattoo?
It's just it was the top of a helmet design. Believe it or not, it was something that I had in my mind, something that was very similar to what I got. And my helmet painter, Nick Pastura, sent my new helmet for the next year. Yeah. And I was like, actually one of the guys at our shop called me and said, "Have you seen your helmet yet?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "Well, when did you talk to Nick about it?" I said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "I haven't talked to him about it." He goes, "Well, you need to come see this." He goes, "Your tattoo project just showed up on a helmet."
That's
I'm like,
cool.
"You're kidding me." So we took it, and actually Nick redrew it and made it more detailed. And I took it to, what's the guy? Corey Miller, out in California, that's on LA.
Oh, yeah. That
so
guy.
he's a really good black and gray artist.
Nice.
And so he did it, and I was going to Australia 2 weeks after I got it done. And he goes, "Listen," he goes, "at whatever point that you've had enough," he goes, "just tell me, we'll stop." He goes, "We'll finish at another date." I'm like, "Corey," I said, I'm getting ready to go to Australia. It's summer over there. There's going to be times I'm going to have my shirt off. I said, I don't want to walk around with a half-done tattoo.
Yeah,
I said,
burn it down.
Whatever. I said, we made it this far. Surely I can finish this off.
Right.
Oh, my God. Dude, 6 hours later. And I'm sitting there, and I mean, the last 45 minutes were absolute hell.
Right.
And he was absolutely right. He goes, "There's going to be a point when your body's going to say, 'Listen, I've had enough.'"
Yeah.
And I got to that point, and I mean, when you're from Southern Indiana, you either got to be, if you're going to be stupid and dumb, you got to be tough.
Right.
So I just went with the old theory: you're going to have to be tough here.
Yeah.
Tough it out. And I made it.
Right.
So we flew back. We flew back to Vegas actually to go to the banquet.
Yeah.
And this was the weekend before the banquet. I was racing sprint cars out there at the dirt track. So finished the race, went to California, got my tattoo, flew back to Vegas. Exactly where I laid down on the pillow in the sheet in the morning was an exact print of my tattoo where the ink had bled out overnight because he didn't saran wrap it. When I got home, he goes, "Take a shower," and he goes, "Rub this stuff on your back, blah, blah, blah," which Eddie had to rub the stuff on my back because he was out there with us. So
Nice.
Nothing weirder than
That's
how
the life.
a grown man rubbing stuff
Right.
on your back.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, that's how dedicated he is. So he's a good guy. So, but when I woke up in the morning, the pillow and the sheet were an exact print of the tattoo. I did not move the whole night. Apparently, it never rolled over or anything. I just laid in one spot.
Right.
The Shroud of Stewart.
Yeah.
So somebody cut that and sold it on eBay. I'm sure they cut the sheet out. And they're like, "You too can have this." Yeah.
I'm sure probably the housekeeping crew was like, "Well, yeah." This was before the movie Hangover came out.
Okay.
But I'm sure they were like, "Yeah, somebody got drunk last night, got a tattoo."
Right. There's a giant cat in the bathroom.
I would have loved to have been drunk when I got that done. So
Yeah.
So you guys, I mean, I assume the competition never goes away even when you stop driving.
Yeah, and the thing with me, I mean, it never stopped, because I didn't stop racing. I've raced I ran more races this year than the Cup guys have.
Sure.
Already.
Sure.
So, and I still got 2 next weekend and 2 the following weekend and 3 in New Zealand at the end of the year. So I've got 7 races left, and they've got, 5 left to go for the rest of the year.
We gotta get your FIA license going.
Well, and here's the thing. I thought I was going to get to do both of them this year. I thought I was going to get to do the
Daytona
Rolex and Le Mans.
Oh, In
Wayne
what?
Taylor
Oh.
was
Oh,
going to
okay.
potentially run a second car.
Okay.
Okay.
And he was going to have Jeff in the car that they wanted.
Yeah, the All-Stars.
And I was going to run the second car.
Yeah.
And then Jan Lammers, who I ran.
He ran the old Crawfords with.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
The first time I ran the 24-hour, I ran with Jan, and he said then, he goes, I got to get you to Le Mans. He goes, you'll love it.
Yeah.
And this has been 12, 14, 15 years ago.
And, like,
and
do you-
he finally last year goes, hey, if you're open to it, he goes, I may have an opportunity for you to come over and run the Mans.
Do you have to run the big class, or are you happy to run in like one of the more
No,
GT?
I want to run the big class.
Okay.
Oh,
Next
yeah.
year's a great year to do
Nice.
it.
Here's the thing, though.
Yeah.
I mean, what people don't realize, that's not the harder class. The harder class is that GT class.
Yeah.
We would agree.
Because the
Yeah.
GT guys, and I learned this from Max Pappas, and when he told me, I'm like, it absolutely makes sense of it. But the reason I didn't want to run is because I didn't want to look in my mirror the whole race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
it's
that's
hard
our
enough to be
world,
fast
yeah.
in a car you're not familiar with and you
Yeah.
don't run every week.
Yeah.
So being in a faster car, and I'm much happier in a car that's got horsepower.
Yeah.
That's my background. I know how to modulate the throttle. The GT guys, I think they have to be more technical than anybody because they have to figure out, when they got to run their best laps, but at the same time, how do you sit there and let the faster cars go and maximize your
Yeah,
lap
and
time
not lose any speed in
not
the
lose
process.
more time than you have to doing
Yeah.
it. That's an art to do
Yeah.
that. So the GT guys got my utmost respect for how they do that. I just didn't want the hassle of it. I was probably one of the first guys to ever take a spotter to the Rolex because
And now everybody has one.
yeah, now
Yeah.
everybody's got them.
Yeah.
But I took my bus driver who spotted cup practice for me every weekend.
Yeah.
And said, listen, I got enough to keep watching.
Yeah.
You swear when you run the Rolex that there is 8,000 Porsche 911s out there. You swear there's got to be that many. You're like, there's got to be 800 of them out
Right.
there.
Right.
But the
Yeah.
thing is, you remember the car from you'll be in the same stint, and
Yeah.
you've lapped them once. You come by the next time to lap them, and they've made a driver change in the meantime, and now it's the club driver. Yeah, it's the dentist that.
He used dentist. Yeah. Yeah, you get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're fine.
And he does something totally different about wipes you both out, and it's like, holy crap.
Right.
But Jan was one that and Andy Wallace, they're like, listen, you just have to assume that every one of those cars that they don't see you coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He goes, don't assume that they see you.
Yeah.
He goes, you're used to spotters where somebody's telling them that you're coming.
Yeah.
These guys don't have that. So.
Well, and what's funny is in IMSA, sprint races, spotting is kind of hit or miss. Most teams don't have spotters, but the Daytona 24, actually a lot of NASCAR guys will come over just for that race. So, like
Yeah.
the couple clients I've got, it's actually very common for them to use proper Cup or Xfinity guys to come out just for that thing and do two shifts.
It's just one less variable you got to
Yeah.
worry about. I mean, it's, the mirrors are in different spots. I mean, you're used to looking at two mirrors out here versus one over your head,
Yeah.
and like I say, it's hard enough just to hit your marks and
Yeah.
get used to a different car. And
Well,
remember everything inside there is different, and get used to that on top of 800 911s that are out there and everything else that's going on.
And on the GT side, you got a set of headlights behind you, but you don't know how many headlights are behind them. And
yeah,
so you get kinda,
and you see headlights and you have no idea. At certain times of the day, you can't tell how close they are.
Right.
You see the lights, you know somebody's back there, but you don't know how close they are.
Right, right.
So that was the hard part to get used to for me. So
Right.
All right, so can we break that now? You and Jan Lammers, you're running Le Mans.
I wish. I'm waiting on him to. When he sent, it was probably. I don't do email very much, so I mean, he had to send me a text and says check your email. So I checked my email, and it was like somebody shot my dog. It's like I really thought I was going to get to go. And I'm like, oh man, this is going to be
that sucks,
awesome. I'm gonna get to go to Le Mans. I'm gonna go run the Rolex again. I'm gonna go to Monaco and hang out with Gene this year.
Cool.
At
Yeah.
the F1 race. I'm gonna do this, that, and I haven't done anything. I ran Monaco weekend. I ran the Little 500, which is a 500 lap sprint car race on a quarter-mile track, which was a bucket list item for me. But other than that, I have not done anything but race my dirt sprint car in my spare time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It would be awesome if I had won about 15 races this time of year. I've won one 410 race, one 360 race, and one three-quarter midget race. That's what we've won this year. And I'm ready to.
Are you about to say, are you
Claw
just
myself.
limited that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just freaking out. What is it about dirt racing that everybody likes? Like, I've never done it. I really want to at some point.
So you've ran 24.
Yep.
You ran the same line for 24 hours.
Oh, yeah.
When you go to a dirt race, you're going to run a different line every time you go on a racetrack.
Yeah.
The track's going to be quite a bit different every time you go on the track.
Right.
So, and even in a 30-lap main, the track's going to change a bunch from the beginning of the 30 to lap 30 at the end. And that's what we like about it. I mean, it's you have to do. There's a whole nother element to driving a dirt car than what you do on pavement, because it might be on the bottom. When you start out the night, most of the time you're in the middle of the racetrack or a third of the way off the bottom. And the natural thing, once that groove gets wore out, is people want to go down. And so the guys that can hit the bottom will go to the bottom. Guys like to rip around the top. They'll just keep moving up. Well, that top just keeps getting longer and longer around.
Right.
The bottom doesn't keep going down at the same rate because guys are having a harder time hitting the bottom.
Okay.
So, but the guys pounding the top, they're just constantly pushing it out. So you start the main event, you might be on the top, and the top might get so long, or it might get so slick where the lefter needs to drive off the corner. It might get so slick on the drive on the exit that a guy on the bottom now, even though he had to slow down a bunch, the top gets so far around that the guy's thinking he's slow and running a bad lap time, but he keeps it straight, or hits the bottom, and on the exit he's got the left rear in the moisture and gets a big drive off the corner. So the top might slow down, you get to the bottom, and then the next thing you know, now the exit, the entry is a little slicker, it's got a little tighter to get the left sides in the moisture, and you might be losing drive on the exit. Now the top comes back.
Right.
And that's the part that's fun about it, is trying to figure out as the track's changing, where do you need to be? And guys that, you'll see guys all night, every time they're not in the car, they're up watching the racetrack and seeing how quick it's changing, because you're not only planning for the way the track is now, you're planning for what it's going to be, how much is it going to change by the end of the race.
Right.
And that's what's cool about it.
Yeah.
And that you're just, you're never running straight through the corner. I mean, you're driving off the right rear all the time. No matter what kind of car it is, you're always driving off the right rear on dirt.
Yeah. So your nickname, Mr. The Smoke. That's it, right? We added the smoke because of cars.
Out of respect, it's Mr. The Smoke.
Mr. The Smoke. Yeah, we're adults here.
Yeah.
We told Blaney that, and he's like, yeah, he'll like that. That's cool. Some people think that it's from you doing burnouts after winning races, but I guess the actual reasoning is from burning the right rear off, right? Like just
when I started in sprint cars, I was racing pavement sprint cars in USAC, so no wings.
Yeah.
The injector system, what they call a tunnel ram, and it's got, instead of four trumpets sticking out of the top for the air to go in, it had two massive trumpets about this big, and when you opened the throttle, it was like you were flushing a toilet.
Okay.
And it was really hard to get the fuel right in it, but this guy was real adamant about running that system, and I just was not very good at throttle control at the time. I had never, I went basically from 3/4 midgets that are 750cc motorcycle engines to all of a sudden a V8.
That's sort of like the next step from karting.
Yeah. So it was a big difference, and so I just wasn't that good at throttle control when I first started, but I got it in the sprint car and midget deal, and then when I went to IndyCar, people thought that was my nickname because we blew up motors almost every race with Team Menard.
I heard that too. I didn't want to bring it up.
Yeah, so people thought that was it, and then we got down to Charlotte, so it was. But it was originally from the sprint car.
And that's not a good nickname for that reason, right?
No,
because you're
no, it's not a flattering nickname. So not for that reason.
Yeah,
so.
right.
Needless to say, I figured it out eventually.
Yeah,
learned how to take better care of them.
Career seemed to go okay.
Luckily.
So with the love for dirt, obviously you buy a place like Eldora. How much of the Eldora decision is sort of a business? Because at the time when you bought it, correct me if I'm wrong, but Eldora wasn't doing so well.
I was doing okay, but I mean, the whole thing that started that day, I got a phone call at 9 o'clock in the morning, and anybody that knows me knows that I'm one of those that gets up at the crack of noon.
Okay.
Right. Good.
So
yeah, you and I can hang.
When the phone rang at 9 in the morning, I was less than impressed, first of all. But I answered the phone, and it was Earl Baltus. And he's like, hey, I need you to come talk to me. Well, just coming to go talk to him isn't just drive 15 minutes across town. It's a 3-hour drive from Columbus, Indiana to Rossburg, Ohio.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's provided I was even in Indiana that day and not in North Carolina.
Yeah.
But I told him, I said, Earl, I said, it'd be 3 hours before I can get there. He's like, yeah, no problem. I'll be here. Just come meet us at the house. I'm like, okay.
Oh, all right.
So, drive over and met with him and went over, and he showed me his new house he was building, which is on the backside of Turn 2. And it was about halfway done. Then we came back, and we literally walked in the front entrance and sat in the top row of the bleachers right above the start-finish line. And he goes, hey, my health's not that great. My doctor says I need to alleviate a bunch of stress out of my life. And, we're going to sell the racetrack, and Bernice and I think you're the right person to buy it. We want to know if you're interested. Yeah, I mean, I'd definitely be interested. So Kerry Agajanian was managing me at the time, and before I even got out of the parking lot, I called him. And so by this time, it's 1 o'clock, which is now 10 o'clock LA time. So he's freaking out because he's like, something's got to be wrong for you to be calling me this early in the day.
Right.
Yeah. So I said, well, you're not going to believe, A, where I'm at, and B, why I'm here.
Right.
He goes, okay. Which it was kind of like my bad ideas thing, my good bad ideas. He has the same answer when I had to tell him something like that. I said, I just left Eldora. I said, Earl Baltus called me this morning and said I had to come meet with him. And he says his health's not that great and that needs to take some stress off his life. And said him and Bernice think I'd be the right person to take Eldora over. He goes, you're kidding me. And I said, no. Maybe I'm asleep in bed in Columbus and don't realize it and I'm having one hell of a dream, but it sure seemed real to me.
Right.
So a week later, Carrie actually flew from L.A. over, and we both went back to Eldora and met with Earl and Bernice and started working on doing the due diligence and went from there. And next thing you know, about 3 months later, I owned a racetrack.
I don't need a number, but do they give you like the sweetheart deal because they know you're going to take care of it, or is it like it's?
I will say this: there were 2 other groups that wanted to buy the racetrack, and both of their offers were more than what I paid for it. So I don't know if you want to call it the sweetheart deal or if they just.
But I thought you understood it.
They were pretty adamant they wanted me to
had
take
an
it over.
idea.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good.
And how would you balance that between saying a business decision where you did your due diligence and said, okay, this is something I can turn even more profitable versus that sort of nostalgic love of this is your track, you know?
My first thing was, holy crap, I could be the owner of Eldora Speedway.
Right. Yeah, that's what I figured.
I didn't
Yeah.
think twice about the rest of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Hot dogs and concession stands and light bills and
Yeah.
tractors and graders and diesel fuel and septic systems, which was the $400,000 septic project was the first thing I had to do when I bought the racetrack.
Okay.
Right.
So that's pretty glamorous when you buy a racetrack. That was the first thing was a sewage project.
Nice.
So,
Yeah.
But, obviously at that time, I mean, we pretty much had a good system in place of, hey, if we're going to do something, the 3 of us are going to agree on it. And, Carrie was the 4th in that. And Carrie said, hey, this
Makes sense.
Yeah, this is a good thing. And, once the other 2 looked at it, they said, yeah, this does make sense for us to do this. So it's been a great project for us, one that I definitely love.
So we've seen the video footage and the Twitter shots of you driving the tractor around and keeping the track smooth or whatever it is.
Got the quad
out.
Doing it.
Is that real, or is that just the cameras are on and we need to see that you're working, man?
Well, I can get on my cell phone and show you what I was doing at 5 o'clock in the morning the night after the King's Royal was over. We got a new grader, and
Nice.
2 things I'd never ran. I mean, I've owned Eldora over 10 years now, and 2 things you never saw me on were the grader or the water truck. And this year I did both finally.
Yeah.
Right.
But the grader, I mean, that's one thing that, especially on a half-mile track that's high speed, the faster the speed, if you get an irregularity in the track and get a bump in it, bumps create even more bumps
And it's going to
past
grow,
it.
exactly.
And it's a big drama. So actually had the guy that takes care of it at 2:30. He went out there with me, and
Nice.
And he was. I'd driven one at Chili Bowl, actually. They'd got a new one. The old ones had about 10 levers and a steering wheel.
Right.
It's like I only got 2 hands and 2 feet. I can't do, and I couldn't remember what lever did what, and this and that. I'm like, man, this is a disaster.
It's like a Zamboni.
That and it was after the A main, and we had worked all week, 6 straight
you're
days
pretty
in a
damn
row,
tired,
and
yeah.
I'd had about 6 adult beverages in
Good.
me, and
Nice.
after I got done with the front stretch, it looked like the rhythm section of an AMA track. I said, all right, that's even more reason you'll never see me at Eldora on a grader. So this year they had a newer grader, and it's done by 2 joysticks. You do everything with 2 joysticks. I'm like, hey, what a coincidence. 2 joysticks, 2 hands. I can do this.
Right.
And I learned how to run that, and I actually
Cup holder?
did oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Just making sure. Yeah.
It's hard, though. You got to stop to get something to drink. You just got to stop where you're at.
Right.
But I tried, and I'm like, man, I like this kind of grader a lot better. So we actually bought one, and I said that's my project. And what we had planned on doing was actually just the roads in the parking lot, just starting there and working that. But we had so many people that were staying over from the King's Royal through the truck race 3 days later that I'm like, hey, I'm just going to – what do you think about me just cutting the top off of it? And when I say cutting the top, I mean literally cutting a 1/4 inch at the most off the top of an 1/8 to a 1/4 inch. All you're doing is just trying to take the top
And this is
surface
just that
that was
sort of
black
not
off.
being a dirt guy. It's just sort of the collective build of everything, and just kind
Well,
of.
'cause it does
It's
rubber
where
up, right?
it actually just polishes off, and then it gets black.
Yeah.
So all you're trying to do is just cut the crust off the top, because
Copy.
everything underneath it still got a lot of
kinda
moisture in
packed
it,
in,
and it's a little softer. But that top gets hard. It's kind of the hard pan, you call it, and you're just trying to cut that black off the top of it to where you can start working it,
Really
and
going for
doing
it.
everything you got to do. So
Do they dread when you show up?
no.
They're not like, God
No,
damn
no.
it, he's gonna have ideas again.
You're right.
Well, the thing is, I'm like a Nazi. I mean, I'm like Hitler when I get there, especially when it comes to the track prep stuff. I keep after him, keep after him.
Yeah.
And it's stuff that obviously when I started helping out with Chili Bowl, I learned a lot there. We've raced a gazillion dirt tracks across the country, and so we've kind of learned some things
Pick up
over
a
the
thing or
years.
two, yeah.
What it kind of like new homeowners, what is the bill you didn't think you'd ever be writing that just never goes away? Like you mentioned, the septic system. Like, what's the biggest thing of owning a dirt track that no one would expect?
Well, it never stops. That's the thing. I mean, we bought a new scoreboard. Then we went from a scoreboard. We added a video board beside the scoreboard. Now we bought another video board that's 3 times bigger than the original one. Don't even have the scoreboard anymore because now the scoreboard is actually in the video screen.
Okay, yeah.
It's all integrated into it.
Right.
That's a perfect example. I mean, adding suites to Eldora, sewage system that I had to do right off the bat. I mean, it's always something. It's constantly evolving. Road grader, bought a new road grader this year. Bought a smaller, newer water truck to go with the bigger trucks that we have. It's just constantly.
Yeah.
You're constantly upgrading equipment. You're always investing it back in.
You don't have to answer this, but is it profitable?
Yeah, if you do it right.
Yeah.
And not all racetracks are profitable like that. I mean, I'm very fortunate that I bought one of the premier dirt tracks in the country.
Yeah.
But it is profitable. It's profitable because I have a guy from Harvard Business School that watches the dollars and cents.
Right.
And we have Roger Slack that used to work here for Humpy Wheeler over at Charlotte Motor Speedway. He's our promoter there, and so Roger knows how to watch for that stuff. Obviously having guys from Harvard Business School, that's good on the business side as well. But we sit there every year, and about this time of year we sit there and start updating the wish list of projects that we want to do. First category is what is it. The second category is how much does it cost, which is the one that I get a little more uptight about, and the Harvard guy gets a little more uptight about. And the third row is how long is it going to take from start date to finish date. So, we just make a wish list, and then we try to do something. We try to do something for the spectators. We try to do something for the competitors and the car owners every year.
Yeah.
So if it's more concrete in the pit area where the teams aren't getting their trucks stuck in the mud. That's for the teams.
Yeah.
Whether it's caution lights or new Musco lighting or whatever, that's for the drivers. And then the video boards, we've had very good compliments that our women's restrooms at Eldora are really nice for a short track.
That's actually
track. So
very handy
that's
to know.
something that
That's just keeping every guy that's trying to get out there a lot easier for him.
Yeah,
like,
but that's
I
a
don't
real
want to
thing.
go. The bathrooms are gross.
Here was one thing that I didn't even think about. That the girl I was dating at the time, she went. I said, hey, let's go look at all this stuff. I said, go in there and make sure nobody's in there because I want to go in there and look at this. And so it was just her and I. And she goes, you need hooks. I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, you need hooks.
Like on the back of the door?
On the back of the door, so you can hang your jacket up, your purse, all
whatever,
that stuff. She goes, I don't want to lay my purse on the concrete floor that's got dirt on it.
Yeah.
It's impossible to keep the floors clean.
Yeah, of course.
But
it's a bathroom floor. You don't want to put anything on it.
Yeah. So it's got nice light fixtures in there, not over the top, but for a dirt track, nice light fixtures, hooks on the back of the doors, just simple things like that that I never would have thought of that.
Right.
But
cup holders?
I don't know about cup holders.
Okay, just
I don't think
thinking out
we
loud.
put cup holders in there. I don't think we did that. Maybe
Well,
that's something I need to look
Well,
into.
but also
Just
the
giving
key
you
to a
ideas here,
bathroom
man.
is good turnover.
What's that?
You need good turnover in a bathroom.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't want them
wanna
camping
keep-
out in
Yeah,
there.
exactly. So
That's a good point. I like the way you're thinking there.
yeah.
I want them to finish their drink, go to the restroom, and then go back and get
Get another drink.
Right.
See, there you
Yeah.
go. I just made you $8.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
So shorter
You're welcome.
cups. We're just trying to save
No,
some
we
money
don't
here.
skimp on the cups.
All right.
We don't
Yeah.
skimp on that. And that's something that's a big deal. We've never jacked the prices up at the
I've read
concession
that.
stand.
Yeah, that's cool.
People can bring their families and eat cheaper there than they can going to fast food.
Yeah.
And getting fast food on the way to the
That's
racetrack,
crazy.
and people love it.
Yeah.
So that's what even the NASCAR teams when they go there, like, we cannot believe the prices at the concession stand.
Right.
Yeah, they're like, we feed the whole team off of it
Yeah.
versus normally you get food and bring it in.
Yeah.
They're like, we don't need to. We can get food cheaper here than we
Yeah.
could if we went out to get it and brought it back.
Yeah.
Is there a staple Eldora menu item? Like obviously Martinsville is known for the hot dog. What's the Eldora thing?
We got a pizza burger.
Oh,
It's sausage with
how
with
far
cheese
is
on it.
Eldora from here?
Yeah.
From here?
Yeah.
I haven't driven it. It's about an hour and 15-minute flight though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we got to
we
get that
can't
pizza
fly, but
burger.
we're doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
get
It's a
that
pretty big
pizza
deal.
burger.
All right.
And we have a signature drink. We have a bar actually at
Okay.
the track
You're
too.
damn right you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good business right there.
Well, but you can't always do that though. But
With the
luckily, it had a liquor license already,
Nice.
and it had always had a bar since I can never remember going
Yeah.
there. But we have a drink called they call it toilet water, and it is a brown. It's a brown drink. It is it has like 5 or 6 different schnapps in it, and when they pour it in there at first, it looks like a rainbow.
Yeah.
And then the guy takes a straw and stirs it, and it
it's
turns
like
brown.
Let's make it uglier.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
the topper on it is a small 1-inch Tootsie Roll, and they put that in the top of it.
Oh, it's toilet water, like legit.
and I mean, they sell like crazy. That's the signature drink at Eldora Speedway. People
awesome.
love it, so they come for the pizza burger and the toilet water.
Yeah, that's got me written all over it.
Yeah. One leads to the other. That's fantastic. So where did the idea for the truck race come from? Was that you guys, or did that come from NASCAR?
I made a comment that, Roger had started working with us, and but I had made the comment. I'm like, we could, because I ran the ARCA race at Des Moines a couple years in a row, and I'm like, we could you can run these cars on dirt. And I was joking around with a bunch of guys when we were doing. We had the Chicago, I guess, media getting ready for the chase, and I said, hey, we could, we can do this. We could run dirt cars at Eldora. We could bring them here. Well, finally, somebody from NASCAR about 2 years later said, were you serious about that? I'm like, I called Roger. I said, hey, am I serious? Can we actually do this? And he's like, hell yeah, we can do this. So, I was like, yeah. So they flew up. They looked at things. There were about 3 things improvement-wise that we needed to do with the inside walls. But, our place, we got inside walls, outside walls. We got things that a lot of the dirt tracks don't have.
Yeah.
And it was actually practical that we could actually do that. So.
I don't know about your family's background, and what I mean is financially. Did you come from a wealthier family that was able to help you get going racing?
I wish I had Joey Logano's dad as my dad growing up.
Okay, so
we barely got by. I mean, we raced go-karts, I guess, for 10 years, and there was one summer that we actually quit, and I think I had just turned 16, and I was racing the junior classes. It wasn't such a big deal, but
this was WKA.
It's actually road course series that was in Indiana at the time.
Okay.
And I was running WK as well,
Right,
but
yeah.
we got to where we couldn't afford to buy a new set of tires each race.
Yeah.
So we were buying tires that guys had ran the previous race on. Well, they were a tenth and a half slower.
Yeah,
and a tenth and a half, and that deal was huge.
Yeah.
And we had one day that had a pinhole in the right rear, and this was a track that was kind of a weird layout. It was like a 3 left-hand corner deal in a park. It really wasn't much of a street race, but the right rear was the one that we kept having the problem with.
Yeah.
And so my dad he put about 3 pounds over of air in it.
Yeah.
And
Just to bleed it out.
Knowing it was going to bleed.
So it's going to bleed down, right?
Yeah.
And sure enough, it got down low enough that it, by that part of the day, the third heat, that there was enough rubber on the track that it actually pulled it off the bead. And I went through the hay bales and backed into a tree, and I was like, yeah, that's no good.
Yeah.
And I said, we're done. If we got to do it like this, we're not going to do it at all, because we can run better than this. I mean, we could race and win with the guys we were racing with at the time. We just couldn't afford. I mean, literally a set of tires then was $140. We couldn't afford a $140 set of tires to go race on.
Exactly.
So we took the rest of the summer off, and
your dad was in medical supply sales, is that right?
Yeah. Yep. You guys know more about my family than I thought you did.
Yeah, we did. We did a hard.
We just
hours of
looked
research.
dumb.
Yeah. Man,
You said it. Yeah.
You're successful at it too.
So you win WK championship, you end up doing quarter midgets and some USAC stuff. Apparently, Mark Dismore played a role in that.
Yeah, my whole go-kart career basically was around Mark and his father.
Yeah.
And which was cool too, because when I got my first opportunity to run a full-size midget, it was a car that he had owned that I had went to Florida and worked with him when I was a lot younger and still racing the go-karts. He sold it to a family in Greenfield, Indiana, and the kid, their company was above-ground water towers. They did maintenance on above-ground water towers, and I guess the son was coming down for lunch and got sliding down the rope too fast, and his hands got hot, and he held on as long as he could, and then finally had to let go of the rope. Well, when he landed, it shattered his ankles. And so Mark said, hey, I got a kid that I think you might want to look at to put in it. And that's how I got my first full midget ride, and won a couple races at the Speedrome, and we were rookies at the same time with Kenny Irwin Jr.
Cool.
So raced with him at the Speedrome that first year, and it's kind of how it started. But Mark was a big part of it, and then it kind of made full circle. We were teammates at Team Menard when the IRL was around too.
Yeah. And Dismore's still doing it in karts. It's crazy. I was at an event in Newcastle.
Got a great place at Newcastle.
Yeah. But he was still racing 16-year-olds and still just as competitive. It was pretty impressive.
If that kid wears gloves that day.
He had gloves on.
Yeah, gloves on. Okay.
But it just, when you're going down
that kid goes a little bit slower getting down there. Isn't that crazy to think about? That could have been one little defining moment where you just didn't feel good and didn't go to work that day or something.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So what kind of jobs were you doing then at 15, 16 to make this work?
Well, I mowed a lot of yards in the neighborhood. I had my sister and I split the newspaper route, so she could make some money. But that's what I did before I actually got a driver's license. And then, oddly enough, I worked at McDonald's 2 years.
Oh, no shit.
And this was even the second year was actually after I graduated high school because I knew him. I worked a couple odds and end jobs. I worked at a car wash.
Yeah. Like a place like McDonald's, which is, I mean, I've never worked at that specific place, but like that's about certain shifts, and it's hard to get like these 3 or 4 days off to go do that.
That's what worked out. That's why it worked out for us because they knew what I was wanting to do and what I was trying to do, and they knew I was trying to get to 40 hours a week, and they were good about me doing that. So there was actually one day that. By the time I quit working there, I had done everything but a manager's job. Yeah. And there were a lot of times that I could actually cover for a manager if a manager didn't come in.
Okay.
But there was one day that, I was working day maintenance at the time. So I started work at 4 in the morning and worked 4 to noon. And somebody that was supposed to work the lunch to 3 shift called in sick. So I worked 12 to 3. Then one of the school kids called in sick. Didn't come in. So I worked 3 to 6. Then had somebody from 6 to 9 that was supposed to work that called in. And then somebody that was night maintenance that got sick and couldn't come in. And I stayed, and I worked 22 hours straight that day. So, I mean, but they were really good about letting me get my hours and moving around. If I, especially at that time, I was racing 3/4 midgets, and the fair season, we raced 11 races in 18 days.
Jesus.
So they really worked around my schedule, and, I still got the work done that I needed to get done. But the extra stuff to get to 40 hours, they were really accommodating and let me work longer on the days that I could work, and shorter days on the days that I needed to go race.
Yeah. So you're how old at that point?
I was 18 then.
Yeah. So you're 18 years old working at McDonald's. Are you the kid that the manager's like, yeah, Stewart, we get it. You're gonna be a NASCAR driver. Make the fries. Or are you the guy that they're like, hey, he's a hardworking kid, doesn't say a whole lot?
Well, no, they never said I didn't say anything. But at that time, I mean, like I said, I'd worked there a year before, and before I graduated, and at that time I was racing go-karts, and they would always ask after the weekends how I did. Yeah. When I went back that year, in Columbus, the Bartholomew County Fair, they came and watched the 3/4 midget race.
Yeah, right.
I think I actually won that night, and came back, so they got it. They understood what I was doing, why I was doing it. Right. Understood my passion for it and everything. So they were really cool about it. But I didn't get any special treatment by any means. I mean, I still had to do my job, but like I said, the part where they were real accommodating was helping me get the hours I needed to get in to make it to justify working there.
Is that McDonald's still there?
Yeah, they tore it down and redid it and made it modern, but it's still in the same location.
Are you going to buy that one?
I was going to say, franchise opportunity.
Actually, you're laughing about it while we're saying this, but I actually did look at it because I told him, I said, what better success story than somebody that actually worked in this store
to
buy it eventually. And, obviously with who we were, I mean, McDonald's was a sponsor for a while.
Yeah.
And corporate McDonald's actually bought that store away from the guy that I worked for.
Oh, interesting.
And so I tried, when we did our personal service deal with him years ago while I was in NASCAR, I said, hey, instead of paying me whatever you're going to pay me, would you let me take that money and invest it in that store and be a partial owner with you guys? And they wanted nothing to do with it.
Not interested.
It's like, wow, this just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. So it's the ultimate success story.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
And it's like, they have Burger College that you have to go to be a manager and an owner and all that. Yeah. And I said, I'll go through Burger College, the whole deal, and learn everything I need to learn. I said, and if I'm home and I got a day off and bored, I'll go in and I'll go work. Yeah. Just to make it make sense to people.
Yeah.
And people go, yeah, Tony Stewart was actually in the store and helping out. And I just thought it just made perfect sense to me. I thought, well, what better story?
There's got to be a PR guy at McDonald's that's like, do this.
This is the thing.
I don't know that it ever got to the PR guy, but it's definitely. And since then, I mean, I've still checked since now. Now the whole store's for sale, and I was like, hey, I'm still here. But they want people that are actually going to be in there working so many hours a week. It's like,
wait, to be a franchise?
To be an owner?
To be an owner, yeah.
Huh.
It didn't used to be that way because the guy I worked for had 4 stores.
Yeah.
And but they want people that, if they're going to be a new owner operator, they want you in there working it.
Okay, I kind of get that, but at the same time, it's like, hey, it's Tony Stewart. People are going to come here for that.
Well, sometimes you can't fix stupid, so it was somebody that was stuck to something that was written down on a piece of paper that was
it says
that had
right
a great
here.
intention.
It says right here, I can't.
Yeah. But it's like we could figure this out, and it's funny because when I talked about doing it, I talked to some of the managers that I work for, and they're like, they don't even work there anymore.
Yeah.
And they're like, listen, if you get it, all of them agreed to come back.
No way.
The
That's
group of them
super
said,
cool.
we'll come back and run it for you.
Yeah.
They had problems with the guy that owned it, and they all
Yeah.
went their different directions, but they said, listen, if you buy it, we'll come work for you.
Right.
We'll come run the store. So we had it all lined up, and corporate McDonald's blew that out of the water.
That is
Screwed
incredible. You had a personal services contract with the company
Yeah.
to be.
I didn't want a
supposed to be
dime.
a
I didn't want to
spokesman.
take a dollar. I said, whatever you're going to pay me, just let me buy that much percentage of whatever the percentage is.
Yeah,
I don't care if it's
right.
1%, if it's 30%, whatever it is.
Huh.
I don't care. Just whatever it is, put it in the store, and it's a huge marketing opportunity saying, hey, here's a guy that worked here, and he worked here so he could do what he's doing now.
Yeah.
And now he's come back and
Right.
bought the same
and
store he
also
worked at.
he's racing celebrity, so people are going to want to come there because of that and sell more hamburgers. Just throwing it out there. Awesome.
Missed opportunity is what we call that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
like my dating life.
Well, I mean, on that same kind of regard, as an Indiana boy, your first 500, you go and you lead like 60-something laps or whatever.
44.
Damn.
Still
All
a
right.
lot of laps.
So your first 500 as an Indiana
Go ahead.
yeah. But
We
no,
edit these.
how proud was your dad at that point?
Oh.
You know what I mean? That's got to be it. Like, obviously winning it would be the ideal, but like getting in the race is a big deal.
The cool thing is my dad, when I moved up to 3/4 midgets and full midgets, I mean, he was a part of the whole go-kart thing with me. And then a guy that I drove for got me off to the side at the end of the one season. I started about halfway through the year with him, and at the end of the year he goes, hey, we got to talk about your dad. I'm like, okay. He goes, kind of a distraction. I'm like, well, what do you mean? He goes, he goes, he's pretty hard on you. Well, I didn't know any different because he was always hard on me as a kid. I mean,
Yeah.
he's my dad. But what I realized later in life was he was a little harder than most on me. But that's okay. I'm good with that. But he thought it was going to would be a lot better if my dad sat in the stands. And when I made that phone call and told my dad that the car owner wanted him to sit in the stands and not come in the pits, my dad wouldn't even come to the races anymore.
Oh, man.
So it took a while before
Yeah.
that finally started
Yeah.
coming around. And when I finally got into full midgets and sprint cars, he still respected that and realized maybe he was a little harder than he should have been,
Okay.
and kind of let me do it on my own. But he would come to the races and this and that. But my rookie year at Indy, it was funny because my dad for 3 or 4 years before that would work the month of May out at the Speedway for Valvoline at the time.
Okay.
And they did all the fuel and everything. So he was out there every day. And the year before I got my opportunity, I worked for A.J. Foyt that year on Eddie Cheever's car. I was supposed to hold the dead man valve. Which is the,
Yeah. We don't.
so people that are listening know
Yeah,
what it
yeah,
is.
yeah.
It's a valve that, so if there's a fire or something, I let go of the valve and it's got
and run the
a
other way.
spring and it shuts the valve off. There's no more fuel that can come
Right.
out, and that way it doesn't keep making the fire bigger.
Right.
So that was the year that Stan Fox and Cheever crashed
Yeah.
right off of turn one on the opening lap.
No.
So I'd ran the night before the 500 at ORP.
Yeah.
Got home at like 1 in the morning, and then had to be up at 4 in the morning to go out there. So
Yeah.
my race, I got 3 hours of sleep, and my race lasted about 10 seconds.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So I was there about 4 or 5 hours or
Yeah.
6 hours for the start of the race for 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So.
That was your experience.
But my dad was there, and then the next year, my dad was still working for that company, and so he was there every day. I mean, he got to be there firsthand and see everything that was going on every second I was on the racetrack there, and I mean, he was pretty proud. He was a proud papa then.
Yeah.
So you go out. You obviously had a good practice. You run out. You get yourself on the front row. Circumstances eventually put you on pole. When you set the time that you're in the front row. So in other words, you're in the show. You're not worried about getting bumped
we're
or anything
definitely
like that.
locked in.
Yeah, exactly. What was that satisfaction like?
Well, it was really cool. My whole first year there was really cool. I mean, the first thing that you do obviously is you take rookie orientation.
Right.
And so the 500 was actually the third IRL race ever.
Yeah.
So we had Walt Disney World, Phoenix, and then Indy. And so Buzz Calkins wins the first one. I think Lion Dyke won Phoenix.
Right.
And then we go to Indy. So we got to take rookie orientation, and Buzz and I are talking about it, and kind of nervous because we just don't know what to expect. We don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So you do your 4 phases, and we actually tried to do it in 2 runs. So Larry Curry is competition director, and we had tested about 3 or 4 times before we went for the month of May, and so we had a game plan that we were going to put enough fuel in to run 22 laps essentially. So the out lap, and then the first 10 laps, which was the first phase, and immediately go to the second phase, and then the end laps.
Just
so
knock it all
22
out.
laps, and try to do that twice. and try to set a record for doing it in the least amount of laps.
Because by this point, you'd already done enough testing. You were fine in the car.
Yeah, we had speed and all that.
Yeah, you were set. So
rookie orientation was the hardest part of the whole month.
And that's because of the speeds relative to the downforce.
Yeah, we're running 230 miles an hour.
Yeah.
At speed. Now they want you to run, I think it was 190 to 195 was the first bracket, then 195 to 200, 200 to 205.
Is that literally just going that slow? Because they say that at the downforce levels at that speed, it actually makes the car sketchier.
Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't fun to drive them.
Yeah.
At that speed.
Yeah.
You would think, well, it's slower, it's easier. It wasn't.
Right.
Then on top of that, I mean, you're trying to modulate a throttle to run in a 5 mile an hour bracket.
Yeah.
So on our Pi Dash, they instead of having RPM, this and that, they actually changed it around to where I had instant mile an hour on there.
That makes sense.
So, and I had the average speed when we would cross the line. But I knew what bracket I needed to be, what time bracket as well. So we had time, we had the actual speed, and the whole deal. And but that was the first phase was the hardest phase because that's the slowest of the deal.
Yeah.
Every phase after that was a little better. But so we go out, we run first phase, clear that, and literally after I cross the start-finish line, as soon as he gets the time on that 10th lap and says passed, immediately I'm picking up the pace after I take the line to get up to the next speed bracket.
Yeah.
And we kind of had it figured out how much faster I had to go to this point of the track and blah, blah, blah. So we ran literally 22 laps with an out lap and an in lap, 20 laps of the first two phases. I'm like, man, this is awesome. It's going to be cool. Set a record like that. Probably nobody's going to try to go out there and run 30 laps to break it, the first three phases or something. So we go out, we run the third phase, and I think we're going to do the same thing. And I do my 10 laps, and he goes, bring it to us. I'm like, trying to figure out what lap I broke out at.
What you do,
try to figure out. I'm like, I don't think I did, but I can't understand where I broke out because I didn't see it.
Right.
And so I came in, I said, which one was it? He's, what are you talking about? He goes, which lap did I screw up? He goes, no, you're fine, you passed. He goes, I just want to do something. So, which knowing now, if I'd have known then what I know now, I would have been a little more nervous about it. But so for rookie orientation, they don't put a pop-off valve on your car because you're not going out to try to run. You're not trying to go out and bust a lap off.
Yeah.
You're just going out to run.
Right.
So you just put the plate on top of it and they bolt the plate down.
Yeah.
Right.
So he reaches down where the boost knob is, and it just indexes down. So he pulls it up and indexes it, and he turns it 2 full rounds and then locks it back down. And I went, look up at him out of the car like,
hey, what?
Really? What the hell are we getting ready to do here?
Yeah.
He taps me on the helmet, and I kid you not, he taps me on the helmet. He goes, go have fun. Okay.
All right.
And it's perfect conditions. I mean, we had a 3 mile an hour tailwind down the backstretch, but it was overcast. It was really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, perfect day to go nut up and
Crank something
rifle
out.
one off.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what lap it was, but I ran a lap at 2:37.1.
Well, that
So I finished the 10 laps and come in. I'm like, man, that was badass because the short shoots weren't even a short shoot anymore.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
before I could actually get my hand unwound all the way, I was turning back again.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
And that was a deal, like you mentioned, the slower it is, the worse they felt. The faster I went, the better the car felt.
Yeah,
I mean,
awesome.
you could just feel it
Yeah.
grunting down in the racetrack. You could feel the tires just getting that much more grip. And it was like, man, I want to go 250. I mean, I want to see how fast this thing can go. It just felt like the faster you went, the better it was going to keep going.
Right.
But I remember coming down pit road and coming to the pit stall, and there's 8 USAC officials standing around Larry Curry, and the one guy is the guy that runs the whole thing, and he's got his finger tapping him on the chest. And I'm positive it's like, what the hell are you trying to do? You know?
Right.
And I'm happy. I'm like, all right, well, surely to God, I just passed my deal,
Yeah.
So 8 USAC guys are pissed.
Yeah.
And I get out of the car, and so after you finish your 4th phase, you go to what's now the media center.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you go in there, and there's 4 veterans that when you take your final phase, there's one in each corner that watches you. They meet, and then they come in there, they tell you what you did wrong, this and that.
Sure. Yeah, right.
Then they ultimately tell you if you passed or not.
Okay.
If you don't pass, you go out and you rerun until they tell you they're comfortable with you going.
Right. Who were they? Do you know?
I've got the list at home.
Yeah.
Scott Brayton, which was one of my teammates, I'm fairly certain was one of them.
Yeah.
Johnny Rutherford was one. I can't remember. I've got it at home.
You're right. Sure.
But I remember Buzz Calkins had finished his before I finished mine, or before I got back there. And Buzz was in there at the time, and I'm sitting at the door, and I'm leaning up there. People are laughing at me because I'm leaning up the door because I want to hear how bad this could be.
Yeah, right.
When I walk in there, because here we've just got our ass ripped. I'm sure
Yeah.
I'm going to go get my ass ripped by these 4 guys.
Yeah,
thinking
yeah.
that I'm trying to do something stupid because I just broke the track record.
237. Right, yeah, exactly.
And not by a little. I broke the track record by like 3 mile an hour at the time. And so these guys are going to go like, listen, asshole.
Yeah.
You're a rookie. You don't need to be pulling that shit.
Right.
So I'm listening to Buzz, and I just cracked the door open just to where I can see in there with one eye and can hear, and they can't see me. And I'm listening to them, and they're like, you need to watch this, the entry this way, and, try doing this and do that, work on that, but we're going to go ahead and pass you. I'm like, oh, shit, man, this is going to be terrible. I'm going to get in here. They're going to, knowing these guys, they're going to nut up, and they're going to make me rerun the whole thing,
just
start
because
from
they can.
scratch.
Yeah.
And so Buzz walks out, holds the door for me, and I hold it. I'm saying, hey, good job, man. I'm glad you got through there. Good job, Pretty cool we get to finally do this now and through this part of it. I said, well, glad you are. I'm not, but, I'm happy for you, tell you I'm glad he got through it and all that. I walk in before the door even had time to shut. One of them goes, get the F out of here. You're passed. That was my debrief. It lasted like 3 seconds. I'm like, are you shitting me?
Yeah.
So I turned around, walked out the door. Calkins looks at me. He's like, what happened? I said, yeah, they just passed me. And he's been in there for like 10 minutes. They've been talking to him and grilling him about every little thing he did wrong, And he's doing media, and the media literally stopped talking to him.
Yeah.
And to talk to me because
They
I
saw
just
that.
broke the track record.
Yeah, they saw that.
Yeah, they saw 3 seconds I was in there and turned around, and they just passed me. And so Buzz wasn't real impressed with that part. But,
right, sure.
But it was pretty funny. Needless to say, the stress level of Indy went way down thanks to those 4 guys.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that really helped set the tone for my month that year. And we had speed the entire month. We were typically pretty much the whole month. It was either Lyondike or I. I think that was the second year. I'm sorry. That year, I think we were pretty much on the board, top of the board almost the whole month.
Yeah, that was the crazier with the
Lyondike
big push
would
rods
occasionally as well.
Yeah.
But our cars were always at the top of the board up there. And then you go out for qualifying, that's 10 miles. You got 2 warm-up laps and 4 time laps. That's 10 miles of running. Or your run's actually 10. Your qualifying run's 10 miles, but you got 2 warm-up laps to get to it. It's the longest 10 miles of your life because you're sitting there. By this time, you've trimmed out. It wasn't near sketchy trimmed out like they are now that these guys are doing, but enough that it's like, man, you don't feel near as comfortable as you did, but you only got to do it. You only got to make 16 corners, bud. 16. Come on, man. We can do 30-lap sprint car races sliding sideways, staying on our hands.
Good. Yeah, right.
But to go out there and we'd been good all month, and you finally have a much bigger crowd there on qualifying day, and you go out and you see people standing up and cheering, and you're just nerved up, and to get that run over with. I think our average was 2:33.1. And we ran 2:37.1 when we busted the lap off. But 2:33, I was tickled to death with it. It put us on the pole at the time. We're in the media center. Lyondike had went out, and while we're finishing up our media deal, Lyondike goes out there and sets a new track record. And bust our lap off. And so immediately Larry Curry comes over. He's in there, and he's talking to me. He's like, man, and that was a big deal. Team Menard, that was a big deal to them to be on the pole of the Indy 500. I paid $100,000, but it was a big deal to them. That's just something that was always huge to them.
Right.
And I didn't know what he wanted to do because Scotty had already qualified. Scotty was 3rd or 2nd at the time to us. And I'm like, well, I can go. We can go quicker. We need to put a little, because I told him, I know we left some out there. We need to put more front flap in it. Get the nose cut just a little bit better, and we'll be fine. I said, you can take some off the back. I don't care.
And nerves aside, you're of the mindset you want pole.
Dude, I'm nutted up for it because now I'm as passionate as those guys are about all this. So I told Larry, I was like, if you want to, because he's talking about scratching a car. I said, well, if you want to scratch mine, I'll go run the backup car. The backup car is just as good as our primary. Yeah. And so for that year, we had Scotty Brayton, Eddie Cheever, myself, and Mark Dismore. Yeah. And then we had 2 backup cars. So we had 6 cars in the fleet. So if we scratch a car, that car is done for the rest of the event. Yeah. And then you got the 2 backup cars. So I'm like, I'll scratch mine. Sure. I'm fine in the backup car. I'm ready to go. Because I felt a little embarrassed that I didn't back up what I ran in rookie orientation. But it was like with no pop-off valve. So it's,
a little different.
Thought it was okay. But so Larry, decides to scratch Scotty's time.
Right.
And they go out, and as Scotty's running and making his run, he finishes his run. He beats Leyendijk's time. And then after that, we find out that Leyendijk's car is 7 pounds light, and his run got
So he
DQ'd.
got DQ'd,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I would have stayed on the pole. But then, like you said, I mean, so Eddie and Scotty would run the 2 backup cars one day, and then Mark and I ran Scotty. Scotty and I shared a car, and Mark and Eddie, because they were same
On the
height,
backups, right.
shared the backup cars to practice. And so I remember I was getting ready to walk out the door to go to the track to do media the day that Scotty passed, and I was literally, a buddy of mine had driven up from Columbus and met me at my apartment in Indy, and we were just getting ready to walk out the door, and the car came on TV, and I was like, hold on a minute, I didn't know if it was me running the day before or what it was, and I saw the sidewall, I saw the chunk of rubber fly up, and I saw the car crash. And I knew it was bad, and before I even had an update, I jumped in the car and headed to the speedway, and by the time I got to the speedway, all the garage doors were down in our garage bays, and I went in there, and Larry pulled me off to the side and told me that we'd lost Scott. So I went from the pole to being bumped off the pole. Would have been on the pole if we didn't bump me off, and then ended up back on the pole, to take Scott's place. But it was a pretty cool first year. And the first, those first 44 laps of the race, we led every lap and just walking the dog. And then Larry actually was calling on the radio. He's like, he goes, you gotta slow down. I'm finally like, Larry, I've got the valve. I had the pop off, or not the pop off, but the boost knob all the way back down. I could not unwind the boost knob any more than what I already had it.
Is he just worried about you losing it, or are we trying to preserve something?
He's trying to save the motor. Just trying to take care of the motor.
Right.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I'm like, all right, well, I'll just try lifting, in 1 and 3, and trying to give a little courtesy lift, I mean, we're still driving. I mean, driving away from these guys, and I've got no boot. Got the boost back down all the way.
Yeah.
And it just, my car was locked on.
Yeah.
And so I started lifting. Then my lap times went all over the board. I was real inconsistent because you're just not. That's not what you're trying to do.
Yeah,
It's not a cup car.
Right.
So it's you roll out of a car that weighs 1,600 pounds and it has a lot of with the wings, race trim, it had a lot of drag in it. It slows down pretty quick. So it was hard to modulate it. And so I just went back to running my pace, and he was pretty upset with me about it. I'm like, listen, if I can't sit there and run with the boost all the way opened up and run wide open, I said, I didn't hurt that motor.
Yeah, it's not going to matter.
Yeah. And then he finally came to terms with that too. But it was that was the best shot I had. My rookie year was my best shot at winning the 500.
Yeah.
So.
Does the name Kevin Blanche ring a bell?
Yeah.
Rocket?
Yeah, Rocket.
Yep.
Yeah.
Looks like when he wears a hat, it looks like a train conductor's hat. I think he's
does.
finally started.
That's funny you say
He's
that.
got a little pin head, and then he's got that, mustache like a train conductor. But his hat was always real tall. Made him look about 6 inches taller than he really was.
Yeah.
So.
Are you aware he owns the second ever transsexual pig?
I was going to say, you guys have something in common.
Wait a minute.
Pet pigs.
Yeah, but
not
there was a detail in there that did not make us similar in any way, shape,
Hey, pigs
or
are
form.
pigs, man. Pigs are pigs.
Yeah, no, I did not know that. I could probably go the rest of my life and not have known that and been quite content.
Just to clarify, it got into it basically had a stick go the wrong way, just running through the woods one day, and they had to perform a surgery.
Yeah.
And the pig survived.
Yeah.
The look we're getting right now. So please don't leave after that.
Of all people, though, I can see it being him that would own this pig, though. So
Yeah.
He's proud of it.
Kind of doesn't surprise me, I guess.
Did you have a follow-up to the IndyCar thing?
Oh, well,
I'm going pig stuff, if you know.
Well, I don't want to be a downer, but was Scotty's accident the first kind of severe accident you dealt with in person like that?
Firsthand, yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, when I got in the sprint car stuff, I mean, we'd lost Rich Vogler. I was coming home from a 3/4 midget race the night that Rich crashed. We lost Robbie Stanley.
Yeah.
That was a big deal. But I mean, I guess the Scotty thing, I mean, I'd only raced with him 2 races.
Yeah.
But everybody loved Scotty. I mean, Scotty was one of those guys that, wasn't going to go out and win a lot of races, but if a popularity contest, I mean, with all the drivers, everybody loved him.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the time that I got to spend with him. And when you have a teammate like that, and you're doing appearances together, and you're sitting in debriefs together, and you sit together because I always sat in between him and Mark, because Mark and I obviously big past history together. But I liked Scotty. Scotty and I got on really well, and it was a big deal when we lost him. So it was that was the first eye opener that, hey, you're not invincible.
Right.
And the stuff I'm doing's got consequences if you crash.
Well, and you're driving cars that even today aren't doing the speeds you were doing, especially like you were hitting stupid numbers on the backstretch. I hate the
Rick
cliched.
orientation, the top speed was 250 at the end of the backstretch on the lap that I ran 237.
Yeah. Pre-soft wall, no
Yeah.
Hans. I mean, all that stuff. I hate to ask the cliched questions, but the fear side of it, was that a factor that year more than any other?
I think afterwards, the first couple of days that I got back in the car after Scotty's deal, because we really didn't know why it happened.
Right.
And that's what scared me. It's like, man, this is what's making me nervous about the whole thing, is I just don't understand
what happened.
And how do we keep that from happening again? That's what I kept saying to our engineers. How are we going to make sure this doesn't happen to one of the other three of us?
Yeah.
And nobody had an answer for it. They just said it. They thought maybe you ran over something, but you physically could see something go up in the air
before.
So that part was kind of nerving. But I think the third, by the third day I kind of had that out of my system, and we still had speed those first 2 days, but it just felt different. Obviously. But I remember the day that we got Scotty's car, his race car, that he qualified back to the track. Larry wanted me to shake it down. And so that was a really big deal.
For sure.
With the press and everything that day. And dude, we ripped off some pretty good laps when we went out and took that car. But it was almost like an out of body experience. It was really weird. The whole run was weird. You just kind of felt like you were going through the motions and somebody else was doing the work, and you were just kind of riding along and going through the motions.
I totally get that.
And that's what I told Larry afterwards. I said, that's the weirdest run I've ever had in a race car. I said, I didn't feel like I really did anything. I said, I don't really feel like I was driving. I feel like Scotty was driving it, and I was just riding along. And that's the way it felt. And Ron Burton heard that and did a painting of that.
Oh, that's cool.
Did a painting with, I think, of the front row coming down, and then above that was Scotty. Like Scotty would have been leaning
looking over.
That's over top at the top of the painting. So
we'll break things up, and you can ask about pigs.
Hey, let's bring the energy back. Pig pets. Obviously,
three greats.
We got Kevin Blanch, otherwise known as Rocket, with a pet pig. We have Tony Stewart.
Max
and
Pappas has 2 pet pigs.
Oh, we haven't had him on yet.
We haven't had him yet. But Mario Andretti had a pet pig for about 16 years, and he swears by it. And apparently you do too.
I had a pig.
Pork chop, right?
I had pork chop, and then I had I got my dog Max. And pork chop did not like any other dog, any other pet being around.
Right.
And when they got fighting, I actually got in the middle one day and I got bit. And I'm not sure if it was the dog that bit me or the pig that bit me. That was the hard part, but I got ticked off about it.
Right.
And they had been squabbling for a couple months, and but it just, the intensity kept going up. And the dog was really good about it at first. And then finally the dog's like, I've had enough of this. And he would protect himself. That's all he was doing was protecting himself. But like I said, I got in the middle of it one day and I got bit, and then I got pissed. And so I had to make a decision. Do I keep the pig that sleeps 20 hours out of the day, or do I take the dog that I take in the truck with me to the shop and take him everywhere I go? So the pig lives 3 miles from the house, enjoying farm life. So he doesn't quite have the nice, comfy bed and heater in his room like he's used to. So he's having to tough it like a real pig. Shouldn't have bit me, bud. You'd be in a warm house still in the winter.
They are notoriously clever. Is there any shit you got into?
No, he wasn't really bad. But like I say, he was a big sleeper. He slept a lot. I never saw everybody else that had pigs. I don't think had a pig that slept as much as Pork Chop did. But he loved to sleep. And but I mean, shoot, he would be in the bed. We'd let him in the bed. He'd sleep all night in the bed if you let him. But he literally would get so hot. It was like having your girlfriend in bed. You know how your girlfriend wants to lay up against you all night, and after a while, it's like you're laying against a ceramic tile off the space shuttle or something. And
you know, Sean.
So you finally just kick him out. But I mean, it was nice because in the winter when it was cold in your room, it didn't take long to stay warm because he'd have the whole bed warm by the time you got in there. You put him in there for about 10 minutes and he'd move around. He'd have the whole bed warmed up. It's like, all right, this is a pretty cool deal. But he was pretty cool. It was I've had I'm a big pet person, obviously. I mean, I think in about a 3-year period, I had like a foster parent for a half Siberian, half Bengal tiger.
What?
What?
Hang on.
Baby tiger.
Okay, but
baby tiger.
still awesome. Sean?
Way cool experience. From 3 weeks to 14 and a half weeks. In the 14 and a half weeks, she started making my furniture into a toothpick factory.
Right.
We got into this way too late.
Yeah.
We've been obsessed on this road trip of finding, like, using our media value to try and get me in some sort of sanctuary where I can pet a tiger.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, it's awesome.
Is it awesome? God, don't tell me that.
It's way awesome.
Now you're making me mad.
So so I had her.
How does that come about? Like, how does that come about with a baby? Like, hey, we have this baby tiger.
A place in China Grove that's now under different ownership and is a first-class place. Guy that had it at the time, we got to know him. They'd done a promotion with Charlotte Motor Speedway, and we met the guy. He was taking baby tigers around to these bars, and people were paying to take pictures with him. So he was making
He's running the tiger mill.
Well, that's how he was.
Yeah, he's running the
trying
tiger
to make
mill.
enough money to keep his place open that he
Running
had.
the tiger mill. I get it.
And so we met him one night and went out to his place and I don't even remember how the conversation happened, but anyway, we got to where every Sunday after the race we would go from Concord Airport to China Grove and pick the tiger up, drive to the house, and every Thursday on our way to the airport, drive back to China Grove, drop her off, and go to the racetrack for the weekend.
So you could literally own a Bengal tiger, but not a McDonald's franchise.
I didn't own the tiger. I was just a foster parent.
Foster parent, fair enough.
4 days a week. But yeah, I could do that. Well, I'm pretty sure it wasn't legal to have her where we had her, so
okay,
you're not allowed to have it.
Statute limitations. It's been plenty of time.
Yeah,
we're fine. Yeah,
and I really don't care.
Just fight me.
Yeah,
come get me.
Trust me, I've been through worse. So
yeah,
come on, bring it on.
So you had a tiger. I read you had a monkey at one point.
We had Mojo, had a Pattis monkey, who's in Houston. I think he survived the flooding there, but he's now in Houston. But we had iguanas. We've had
hold
parrots.
on, wait.
A monkey, a tiger, a pig, dogs, cats.
But why? Like why? Like you
why
you
not?
can have a no, I'm all in.
That's why. That's what. Anytime anybody said why, I would say why not.
No, he's adorable. I'm looking at a Pattis monkey right now.
We looked at a
This
Pattis
is
monkey.
just a generic Pattis monkey.
So we
actually.
actually.
I'm all in. It's just like, where does that even come from?
That dude
I
looks
want
mean,
that.
by the way. Like that thing.
Well, that's eventually what led to him not living at the house with us. The males get up to 35 pounds, and their canine teeth are about 1.5 inches long.
Oh,
yeah, I don't want to mess with
this. They can do some damage.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
But
what happened?
And what happened was he was trying to figure out who the dominant male was, and I was pretty sure I already knew.
Yeah.
But he was
challenging,
making a big run at it. Let's put it that way.
Right.
He could bite me. I bit him in the tail one time because I got tired of him biting me. So I'm like, if I bite him, maybe he'll stop biting me back.
Absolutely.
Monkeys.
And I grabbed his tail and I bit his tail, and my girlfriend was so mad at me for doing that because that was like her baby. That was her child. I got in more trouble. He didn't get in any trouble for biting me. But I got in trouble for biting him back.
So in his mind, he was her guy, not you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
She spoiled him. So. I, on the other hand, did not get spoiled by her.
Okay.
Well, that was the ex-girlfriend, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
That wasn't the deal breaker, by the way.
You're like, she doesn't like the.
Well,
but that was a pretty cool deal too. I mean, like I said, I'm a big animal guy, so having a pig and having a monkey and having being able to babysit a tiger 4 days a week.
Yeah.
Those are things that most people in their life never get to do and never have the opportunity.
Yeah.
But stuff that was really cool stuff in my life that I got to do that was fun and challenging at the same time. But it was pretty cool.
This is an objective question, but does anyone give you shit for the idea of being sort of into hunting, but also being a big animal guy?
Yes and no. I mean, that's part of what I learned from Johnny Morris too. Part of hunting isn't just all about hunting, but it's also about conservation.
Yeah.
And just like fish, for example, so we take fish out of our lake and cook them and eat them.
Yeah.
Same thing with deer on our property. Before that, we were hunting deer off our property because it was getting so overpopulated that you're almost hitting deer coming down your driveway every night.
Right.
And so we started hunting and started letting our friends hunt, and it actually got to where our herd got healthier because they weren't
getting rid of the weak.
Yeah. And there's more. There's only so much food source in a certain area.
Yeah.
So now you got a food source that can supply the proper amount of deer on the property.
Supply is meeting demand now.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's. I'm not somebody. If I shoot something, I'm going to eat it.
Okay.
I'm not wasting it. I'm not shooting something to just shoot it today.
Does Penelope know about your lady past?
Do the fans?
The fans
know my lady pass more than she does.
Okay, fair enough.
She knows nothing about racing. Actually, Marco Andretti introduced the two of us. So Michael's wife was a former playmate.
Yeah.
Penny was a former playmate.
Correct.
So that's how Marco.
So you're proving Robin Miller wrong.
In which capacity?
The quality control,
Quality
on
control.
the ladies' side.
Oh, trust me, I'm happy with the quality I got right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eventually, you're going to get it right.
Yeah.
So if you're patient,
Yeah.
I've made it 46
Throw
years.
enough at the wall.
Yeah.
Something's gonna stick,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
But you gotta be patient to not throw stuff at the wall and then go run over and slam your head into it to check if it actually stuck or not. So I've been patient.
I'm gonna write that down.
Now
What is it?
we're on your team in this sense. Is it still true that you vow never to get married?
I'm holding out as long as I can. She's making it really difficult.
Yeah.
She's trying really hard because I'm 46. She's 38. She's looking at it as like it's a grenade getting ready to go off on having kids. She's
I understand.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, listen, I can hardly take care of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then when you throw the dog on top of it, that pretty much maxes out my capability of taking care of anything.
Right.
And I'm like, I can't do it.
Yeah, kids don't sleep till noon.
No, but if you sleep in another bedroom, you can. And I can promise you.
Don't do it.
That's my whole plan. Because I said, listen, I told her I finally got really pissed off one night when she got into the kid category. I'm like, listen, I said, it's not that I don't like kids. I love my niece and nephew. I like when somebody else has kids. I don't want to know about it. You know, I said I can't take care of myself. How am I going to take care of a kid? She goes, she's Latino. So her family is from Mexico and brother's Mexican. She's the first American in her family.
Right.
So she's like, hey, that's not your job. I'm like, excuse me?
Huh.
She goes, that's my job to take care of the baby. So I don't have to change diapers and do the feed and all that stuff. She goes, yeah, that's my job. All right, now we can at least we can have a conversation about it.
Yeah,
we're not going to we're not going to get mad anymore about the conversation. We can have the conversation. I'm not telling you we're going to do this, but we can at least have the conversation now. So.
Have you ever seen Eddie Murphy Raw?
Yes.
Okay. Half.
Yeah. Well, I don't worry. I mentioned that too. She goes, "Why do I deserve anything of what you did before I was around?" She goes, I didn't.
She's not real. Is she a dude?
Well, that's what I said too.
Okay.
But trust me, I checked right off the bat.
Yeah. Sounds like a
Adam's
dude.
apple.
On the moment,
Yeah, yeah.
okay, yeah.
Well, as soon as I got the first
Like,
opportunity,
nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Let me check something.
As soon as I got the first opportunity, I did a thorough inspection to make sure I knew what I was getting into.
Copy that. Attaboy. Kind of one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because you've had a history in the sport of not backing down off the track as much as on it, and you've had your run-ins with like the Logano's and Jeff Gordon and whatever. And one of the ones that always stood out to me, because I think of you guys kind of in the same realm as you and Montoya at Homestead a bunch of years ago. You guys get together early in the race. You take him out.
Neither one of us was going to win that deal, by the way.
Right.
That proved to be a very bad idea.
Yeah, and then so he goes out of the race for like 30, 40 laps or something. They rebuilt his car probably just to go back out and your day up.
And I saw it a lap before it happened. I see him riding around.
Okay,
and when he pulled down on the backstretch to let me go, I'm like, I'm not going to make it out the other end.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I literally tried to overdrive the corner.
Yeah.
And
Just hoping to
he
outdo, yeah.
overdrove it worse
Yeah,
than I did.
I mean, he hit the wall taking you out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's into the wall. And my thought watching that, and I literally just doing a research for the dinner, I'm like, I got to watch some old clips. And I saw it. I was like, man, I remember that happening. And I've always thought of Montoya as just like a total wheel man. You know, he's just like both you guys are just crazy guys that are like, yeah, we're going to go race. We're going for it. We don't care. And so my idea of that whole thing happening is as he's coming to get you back, as you're like spinning towards the wall, you're like, that's what should have happened.
That's exactly what I was mad at myself more than anything, because I didn't wreck him hard enough to junk him
to take him out
where they couldn't fix it, and that was my fault. I was like, if you're gonna, and so I made sure I had a policy after that. If I got mad enough at a guy that I was going to park him for the day, I made sure that he could not fix it.
Right. Yeah.
I was going to crash him hard enough they were not going to fix the car and get back out there.
Yeah.
You needed that 5-minute rule they have now.
Well, dude, I'd have had a whole different career if we had a 5-minute rule.
Yeah.
I'd have won every championship. Nobody would have finished. It would have looked like Survivor. I'd have been the last man standing on the deal.
Right. So the Homestead race ends. You and Montoya, like, really quickly after that, did like a radio thing, and you guys are like high-fiving and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, again, because they're the same guy.
We appreciate each other, yeah.
Right, exactly.
And Jeff and I are the same way. It was weird because, I came in and I came from the same background Jeff did, and Jeff, I think it was a little more of an ego thing for Jeff at the time, because Jeff was the hot young guy.
Right.
Now there's another young guy coming in from the same kind of cars, and actually got to drive the car that Jeff Gordon drove.
Oh, no shit.
For a season. And when I came in there and I got running well, I mean, I don't think Jeff liked it. And I was real aggressive at starts, and Jeff was like, you don't need to be racing me that hard at starts. Well, why? I raced the rest of them, and none of them guys gripe about how I'm racing them, but Jeff didn't want me outrunning him. But we had our run-ins, and I loved beating Jeff Gordon more than anybody.
Yeah.
But then when I went to Stewart Haas Racing and we were working with Hendrick, Jeff and I spent a lot of time with each other because we essentially were feeding off of each other, working for each other. And that ended up being a really cool deal for us. I mean, we got along a lot better.
Yeah.
It was like, man, we wish we could have got along like this years ago. And that's where, last spring when I, my last year before the season started, a week before the season, I broke my back. Well, I was on a trip with Jeff Gordon that Jeff is like, you got to come, you got to make time and come do this with us. You got to come. You have to come do this with us. And I finally got my schedule cleared out to do it, and I go and break my back in the first hour that we're riding. And he was devastated, but it was kind of funny because it was Jeff and Ray Evernham and Rusty Wallace and Don the Snake Perdome, and we get out there, and I went over a dune, and so they said don't try to just turn and don't stop facing uphill. They said you'll get stuck.
Right.
So I drove all the way down to the bottom, turned, and I watched the whole group, and when I saw the guy that was last in the group, then I drove back up and got back in line. But I'm the last guy.
Yeah.
So that's why nobody saw me. So I laid in the desert for 2 hours, laying beside the sand rail with a sandstorm that was forecasted that we knew was coming. I'm like, this is great. So I got my cell phone out, and there's no service out there.
Yeah.
And I hurt too bad to even play games to entertain myself. I just was in pain.
Yeah.
So you lay there for 2 hours. So finally they find me. And Jeff's about to lose his shit. I mean, he's losing his mind because he's like, what have I done?
Yeah, he seems like a caring guy.
Oh, yeah,
He'd
absolutely.
be like, oh, I'm so sorry.
100%. And freaking out. And I'm pretty calm by this point. I'm just glad they found me. So Evernham and Perdome are taller than me, so they kind of carry me. Ron Pratt's who we were riding with, and they got me in Ron's deal. Jeff climbs on the other side, feeds my feet in. So I try to sit down. I can't even sit down. I'm in so much pain, but I can I'm holding on to the top of the sand rail with my right hand and holding myself off the seat with my left hand, and my feet are on the footrest, and I can kind of hold myself up straight, in a straight line at an angle. And the thing that's so funny about that whole deal was I'm like, okay, I just got to hold myself up. I can't sit down because I'm in a ton of pain if I sit down.
Right.
Jeff reaches over, grabs the lap belts, lengthens the lap belts, and puts the seat belt back over top of me. I'm not even sitting in the seat.
Right.
I'm like, what's this going to do? He goes, I just feel a lot better knowing you got a belt on now. I'm like, are you kidding me? My ass is a foot off the seat. Right. It's not going to do a damn thing but break me in half if something happens at this point. But Jeff had made sure that he was adamant that I had to wear the seatbelt to get out of there. So the seatbelt was of no use at that point. But it was really cool. I mean, I was glad that for 6 or 7 years there at the end of my deal that I got to work with Jeff Gordon. It was a lot of fun. And I think if we could have, I had way back when, I guess it would have been at the end of 95 or halfway through 95, 96, I guess, maybe 96. I was already doing the Ranier Walsh deal, and they were testing at Brickyard, and Eddie Dickerson that worked for Hendrick at the time said, "Hey, you want to make a couple laps in this thing?"
Thank you.
This was in Jeff's car. Jeff was like top of the board that day. And I'm like, hell yeah.
Right.
I said, I got to call Ranier first and see if it's all right, though.
Sure.
So I call Ranier, and they're like, absolutely not.
Oh, really?
Which I realized was selfish reasons, and I should have just went in and did it.
Yeah,
and had the balls to do it. But
yeah.
I was scared. I just signed my first
so young and
contract. I didn't want to screw anything up.
Yeah.
But and then at the end of 96, Hendrick called and offered me the 25 car.
Oh,
so
wow.
if who knows how much different it would have been if I would have been in that 25 car and been Jeff's teammate versus racing against him from a different organization.
Yeah.
So,
man. Or if that kid had not fallen off that rope and shattered.
Yeah, trust me, I still see him every now and then because his kid's racing.
Oh, no
cars
shit.
now.
You know that,
And
you know that guy.
Oh,
now.
yeah, he's an idiot. But I'm still grateful that he's an idiot. Thank God for him being an idiot, or his idiot father that hired me wouldn't have hired me. So.
Right.
So, you guys enjoy your dinner. Go ahead.
That's part of it. We just kind of do this.
I'll drink my beer and I'll drink my liquid dinner.
I'm finished.
When you're down, you stay down. you give it all away. Honey, there is no mirror that could ever shield you from your pain. One step up, 3 steps down, and somehow you think you won. I would give anything more to see you play the cards you hold. And maybe if it were easier now, well, maybe then you might know. Oh, but since your life ain't pleasing you now, you give it up and no come and go. It takes time for the light to shield way to the dark. Cover yourself in diamonds, but you and I still share the mark. 40 days in a dreamland won't get you through the night. I hope for you that someday soon it all turns out alright. And maybe if it were easier, well, maybe then you might know. Oh, but since your life ain't pleasing you, you give it up and no come and go. And maybe you should play the cards you hold. Play the cards you hold.